Welcome back to Live at Urban Wild. Today is Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th, January 13th, 2023. We're here, back at Live at Urban Wild. The 9th day, and all those other hashtags we usually bring in. We might be talking about what it's about. Today is also Friday, the eve of the weekly Torah reading of Exodus, which is not just symbolic, it's prophetic. We're here with our constituents, all of them, including the what would have been considered the tribe of Dan. The tribe of Dan was the last tribe that followed in the encampment in the convoy when they left Egypt. Dan represents all the scragglers, all the weak and the wounded and the damaged, all the ones that fell behind. You always had to wait for Dan. Dan also literally means just like in certain Eastern arts. Dans are the way to measure levels. In Hebrew, Dan comes from the root word of judgment. So yeah, obviously the ones who are judged are the ones who are scraggle behind, the ones who have, don't have the best resumes or pasts or whatever else. Also the wounded ones, the ones who were exiled or put into quarantine because of things like leprosy or whatever the COVID-19 they had of the day. So but the point is that when they left, they were still all included, and even though they were the last ones there, the camp always had to wait for them to catch up, to park, and then to move forward when they move forward. So today is a very, very, very symbolic day in so many reasons, in so many ways. Friday the 13th. It's funny how, or the mythology of the 13th, how it came. Maybe it's from the same source of the 9th day. Just look at how, out of nowhere, these cats just keep appearing. I recognize them, but it's just the turnover is what's hard to imagine unless you're standing right here and witnessing it. Because this happens behind my back. If I'm not staring right at it, I don't notice. They can come and go without me even seeing as you see it happening. And I've seen these cats since they were born. I've seen them since they were afraid to leave their little nests. And obviously cats don't live in nests, but they kind of do. Especially out here in this urban wild setting. And of course the cats that we know and the cats we don't. Here, Dingo, the one-eyed survivor over there is back. And the other kittens and the mamas and the multi-generations. Here comes that big white one. It's amazing because it's a little bit later than usual. We've noticed in the past if I come out at this hour, he comes from a couple blocks away. And it's amazing how this here is this meeting point of the cats that come from all directions. It is kind of insane. Especially since I've seen the directions to which these cats go and the distances to which some of these cats go. And for some reason, this event here really attracts cats from quite a distance. Somehow, this is doing some serious social networking in the cat world. And not just to be funny or silly or however you want to call it, but this is so symbolic because it's what we're talking about. There's a place in which these cats actually have a great service. There's a place in which these cats are worth something. I mean, I know that they're worth everything here too, and we're trying to enhance that value. I'm just saying that one person's problem is another person's solution, as long as we just modify the rules to just accept the truth of whatever reality is in any given place. Solutions like this are just beautiful. בוקר טוב. אנחנו מתקרבים לגאולה, לא? אני מסכים. So, that gentleman has been a strange follower and fan. We see him all over the place. And he doesn't really get what we're doing. And I don't expect him to. So I just greeted him again. I try to greet him every day. And I said, so it's Exodus. We're getting close to the redemption. He says, yes, it's all up to you. And of course, whether he means it's cynical or not, or of course, there's a line like that. And everyone knows that. Of course, it's up to everyone. But you can mean that in different ways. And I'm only going to judge him favorably. I'm only going to think that he meant well. I'm sure he does, but that's the point. Yes, it does. I declared a few years ago in a video that I shared recently on our YouTube channel, how we're at a point in time today where, first time in history, in my opinion, that we actually have free will, that a person who wants to live a good, guilt-free life, because that's the point. People can live a good life, but it's hard to live a guilt-free life. People can live a guilt-free life, but until recently people felt it was a sacrifice. They're able to live a good, guilt-free life, which is one of the guilts. Because if it's not good, then it's not guilt-free. That's the point. So to be able to live a good, guilt-free life, it's probably the first time in history that people can do that. And of course it means different things to different people, but start with that. Really, deep down. We have a practice, a type of meditation called Bodhidut, where you go into seclusion and talk to yourself for an hour, talk to God. You know, it's not the same thing, but on a certain level it is. And just be truthful, as if you're talking to your best friend, or to your father, or to the true king of the universe, or to yourself, to your older or younger self. That's why it's all of these things together. Be truthful. What would you change? What would you do? What would you want? And today, it's for the first time in history, we can actually do those things. And what's stopping you? Well, whatever is stopping people, whether it's family, whether it's gender, whether it's color, whether it's nationality, whether it's finances, whatever it is, whether it's proficiency or not, there's a place for you everywhere. There's a place for everyone somewhere, is what I meant to say. And it doesn't have to contradict anymore today. That's the beauty of today. Today, everyone can find their place and their peace without it having to disturb someone else. Even if what the guy next to you, or the person next to you, or the person across the street or the hall, or whatever from you is doing something you don't agree with. If at that moment it isn't stopping you from living your life, it should bother you less. I'm not saying that philosophically and politically you can't discuss it and debate it, and there should always be room for that in a safe environment. But if in the meantime there's enough room for the people who want guns to have guns, for example, or the people who don't want them to not have them, then shouldn't there be a way to get along? I know it's very, very theoretical and very, very oversimplistic, but it really isn't. It's just that pride is what's getting in the way. I mean, Israel is probably the best example in the world for trading land for peace. I'm not saying now is the time to do so. I'm not saying I'm not in Israel necessarily, or maybe yes. But there is a way to resolve all the conflicts if we just think a little bit out of the box and put our pride aside for a minute. If anyone wants my input, I'm more than happy to share. I've already done it, but I'm happy to share again in the context of current events. But all I'm trying to say is that we can choose a better life for ourselves without breaking laws, without needing to go into debt, without making any kind of a sacrifice that we can't afford or that we might regret in the future. The quality of life, as far as alternatives that are guilt-free or do no harm, the variety, the availability, the functionality, all of those things are available. The information is available. Just all a person has to do is ask. It's as simple as that. And that's how beautiful this is. That's why part of the Exodus, of course, the first step was realizing that it's time to change. The next phase was, of course, relying on and experiencing and witnessing and acknowledging the miracles happening, and recognize, wow, yeah, so enough has happened that the old guard is out, or the old way is finished. Kind of like Greta Thunberg. I mean, it's very simple. Why would she go to school to learn practices that is going to continue to destroy the planet? I know I'm oversimplifying the discussion, but I mean, it's as simple as that to the child who started the climate strike, supposedly, or at least that's what history tells us. What I'm saying is that life is simpler now as far as finding solutions. Just like with the Exodus, it starts with accepting the fact that it's time for change. And of course, there's a phase where you need to get out of the old system, get out of the old habits, all these prospects for new eco-cities that are developing all over the world based on the Club Chill concept and other ones. I'm not saying that people stole our idea. No, we open sourced it. We have happily and openly consulted on this for years to governments, Canadian government, the British government, the British royal family. This was in 2016. We have Dutch companies. We have integrated Oasis, OAS, 1S. Raymond DeHulu helped us. We contracted him to design the projects. We designed every possible thing necessary to show that it's possible. And of course, just for the sake of someone else who wants to do it better in their own terms or for their own profit can do it. And thank goodness it's happening. So the point is that the system, the concept, the possibility, the probability, the profitability of it is a fact. Now it's just a question of how do we phase it in and how do we move it forward. And for that, I guess only time will tell. And that's what the 9th day is all about. So 13th I was going to speak about. It's interesting because in Hebrew, 13 with the numerology, 13 is a very magical number. It stands for Echad. In other words, the numerology of the word Echad, which means one, is 13. So 13 represents unity. 13 is also the numerical value of the word Ahava, which is love. So it's in our tradition, whatever you want to call that, or superstition, or whatever you want to call it, 13 is actually good luck. So on that Friday, meaning the eve of the Sabbath, if we go back to creation, this was where the test was. Man's test was today. All he had to do, all Adam and Eve, all mankind, all humanity had to do, the yin and the yang of mankind had to do, was say, yes, we're happy to live sustainably in the Garden of Eden. And as far as what are we going to do, and if it's going to get boring, and what if? Well, we've done the what if over the last 5,783 years, or billions of years, however you want to calculate it. If you calculate the 100 million people, more or less, that have lived, depending on when you want to start counting from, and all of their life experiences and everything you put together, and all the stuff we've produced, mined, stored, buried, and left for archaeologists to find, there's enough experience to unravel, to decode, to recycle, to repurpose, to refurbish, to keep us going for the next 100 billion years, I think, or eternity, which is why the 9th day is the day of eternity, the 8th day is the day of correction, and the 9th day is the day of eternity. So as we see here, all of a sudden, what was a feeding frenzy, and sure we can say the noise from the garbage collector, which is the other side of the irony, because that's the dark side of abundance. But the bright side of abundance is that there's extra food here. Other cats I just noticed popped into the scene, that fluffy one that usually only comes to the periphery. But this abundance mentality is the key, recognizing there is abundance, recognizing it with old garbage like these tools and vessels that I use to dish out the food, and then I clean them up after and I take them away. And a few like that one that I leave behind for water as a permanent vessel. With garbage, otherwise garbage, that I've collected from the park myself, that I use as the vessels to feed them, it has restored peace and calm into the neighborhood on so many levels. And I'm not just saying it metaphorically. If a person were to follow the feeds, listen to what I say, and watch the videos, and I have eyewitness testimonials and people that are willing to testify to the fact that it has changed the whole entire neighborhood, as crazy as that sounds. So this abundance mentality is the fact that we can take surplus, like this Canadian dog food that gets shipped to Israel, which is cheaper than anything else, strangely enough. It has to come from Canada, but oh, Canada. So we get that here. Only this way it's the cheapest solution for us to afford dealing with something that's become a much bigger thing. And it's really just as simple as that. If you have questions, ask. If you want to be part of it, say so. Feel free to share. And the next phase is, to anyone who doesn't know, is okay, now what's he going to do? I collect the extra food, I put it in strategic places where it won't get ruined by the weather, and hopefully not by dogs, because that food is meant for cats. So I put it up on the wall. I collect the containers that we bring out repetitively, that I collected from the park, into my buckets, and I bring them out. And that's about it, including that picnic table that I bring out for them cats, that it's their common table that they share. As you see, they come and go where they feel the least threatened, and they know it's there. On that happy note, wishing everyone a true exodus. Whoever wants to be free, set yourself free. If you need to forgive yourself, forgive yourself. If you need to forgive other people, forgive other people. If you have regrets, let them go. It's not worth it. That's the kind of stuff. It's not anymore a question of baggage. It's a question of anchors. It's going to sink people deep to the bottom of this experience, because the flood is here. The flood of despair and the flood of confusion, the flood of fake news. But the truth is so simple to find if one just asks. It's so simple. It's not anymore what's the best this I can get or what's the best that I can get. It's what's good enough for me to live my life guilt-free. And it's amazing how simple that solution is. It's amazing how available it is. And it's amazing how it's actually there. And if you share with someone who you actually want to share with, you could probably have it for free. And that's what Faceville is all about, but that's a whole other discussion. So I'm going to use that to explain the next phase, but that'll be in our LinkedIn feed. And not right now, but a little bit later. So infinite love and gratitude. It is well that you have come. Wishing everyone a wonderful end of your week. Hopefully end of your exile, end of your confusion, end of your whatever. Because if you're still listening to this, you either just love what I have to say or love the cat so much that you can't resist, or the things I'm saying resonate with you. And if so, well, welcome home.